look, I was not expecting anyone to sign on the buyout market. Were you for the Raptors?
No. And especially, you know, when you look at the role that Jeff Doughton seemed to be carving out for himself, I just figured this was it. And it was like the conversation was more so, can Doughton keep this up to the point where maybe you do have him on your playoff roster, right? Because obviously two ways aren't eligible. So that was more of the conversation. And so this kind of came out of nowhere. But I think he is obviously a piece that can help. I think that, you know, for his career, he's 37% shooter. So I think that's going to be a big help. I think his ball handling when he comes in and gets those reps is going to be important. And, you know, I think you see, even though he's been around for 11 years, he's got some pop off the bounce, right? And
Yeah. He's still got some juice.
They called him Will the Throw for a reason. And so I think he's going to be a useful addition. And, you know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, clearly, you know, he was in Denver for a very, very long time.
Yes.
And then he was traded to Washington this past offseason. And it wasn't a fit for him in Washington, right? And it was like, okay, so then he got bought out.
That's why I wouldn't read too much into his numbers in Washington.
Sure,
But
yeah.
Continue, yeah.
No, but then I was like, oh, yeah, I guess he didn't do well in Washington. Then I looked with the numbers, and I'm like, you tell me he shot 38% from three in Washington, and he scored 7.7 points per game off the bench? That's a good Raptors bench player. Like a bad Wizards bench player is a good Raptors bench player in my book. So, I mean, look, I think there is definitely a track record. I think, you know, with everybody who comes over from Denver, you're like, okay, how much of that was just a beneficiary of playing with you know, Nikola Jokic. You know, is your favorite Joker or is your second favorite Joker? He's your second favorite Joker.
Second favorite.
Yeah, I know, because you multi-sports. You every sport, to be honest. No, but seriously though, like there is that aspect, and of course you always wonder about that. But at the same time, like I just think that he's clearly a very experienced player. He has a diversified skill set. He can get his own basket, you know, but he can also catch and shoot for you a little bit from three. But he knows what to do, really. And you know, I was surprised because I just didn't think that Toronto was like it's just not a place really where people come for buyouts that often. We've seen it more recently with Jeremy Lin and in 2019, and we also saw it with Jason Thompson a couple years before that. But you know, I think that probably gets you to be a little bit cautious of like, okay, buyouts aren't necessarily such a sexy thing. But at the same time, I do think there is a potential fit here. And it was interesting to hear from Will Barton in terms of why he signed with the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, it was some other teams I was considering. I had a good relationship with Earl Watson. He was my veteran. I was a rookie in Portland, so I have a very good relationship with him. I talked to Nick Nurse briefly, and I just felt like it was a good opportunity. This is a good team. I feel like I come in and bring some leadership, some versatility, some bench playmaking and scoring, and you know, just a lot of energy.
So shouts to Earl Watson. You remember Earl Watson on the Blazers?
I do not.
Yeah, but
I remember how excited we got about Jason Thompson knocking down wide open corner threes in practice and thinking that might be something.
Oh, yeah. That was during a time where the Raptors had a dearth of like power forwards. So I suppose this is at a time where the Raptors had a dearth of bench guards.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting because I think that, you know, for a guy like Will, like, you know, you would have considered some other like guaranteed playoff teams. Let's just say that. Like, let's be nice to the Raptors. They're not that right now. Come calling, but you know, he chose to stay, come here, and I guess, man, Earl Watson must be a really good people person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is like 10 years ago we're talking about this.
No, I mean, I think that seems to be the consensus with Watson that, you know, he is a relationship builder and he is someone that connects with the players. And so I do think, you know, this is very much a who you know business.
Yeah.
And so when you establish those relationships, there can come a time where it can be beneficial. And this seems to be the case here. I mean, Will Barton got here pretty quick. And then got in the game pretty quick too.
Well, they asked him about, you were there, but the scrums were like, you know, you got here pretty quick. And he's like, yeah, you know, as soon as I got the call from the agent, I got on the flight. I'm like, were you just waiting at the airport with a jet ready to go? Like, there's no way. But anyway, I'm happy that he's here. Yeah, by the way, Earl Watson played 24 games with the Portland Trail Blazers in one season in 2013-14. So it's not, I mean, I didn't remember that he was a Blazer either. But in that 24 games that he got into, like, I mean, or that one season he spent with Will, I mean, he clearly left that impression. So that's nice. I think there's always that question in terms of like, you know, if he signs here, if it's not necessarily for to chase a championship, it's probably to at least reestablish his value as a player, because he is obviously heading into a contract year, as every buyout player is. And this is what Will Barton had to say about in terms of what he's looking for in terms of playing time.
Definitely, you know, some playing time to, you know, keep proving myself, but also just to impact winning. I know we're trying to make a push to get into the playoffs, so it's just, you know, trying to find a balance and a mixture for both.
Yeah. Do you see that spot for playing time with him on the roster?
I think so, just because he fills a need, right? And I think we know the 3-point shooting is weak on this team. We know that currently the 3 main shooters are Fred, OG, and Gary.
Yep. And if anybody gets hurt, we just have 2 shooters in that game. Yeah.
And so to stabilize that a bit, obviously that's what Otto Porter Jr. was initially signed for.
Right.
But now if you have Will Barton to sustain that a little bit, and you know, again, you look at balancing the roster a bit better. Juancho Hernan Gomez at this point of the season was obviously excess. He wasn't going to get in games. And so you now have this option, which Nick Nurse seems excited to use.
Yeah.
And so I do think he will get his share of opportunities, especially coming up against, you know, a Washington and Denver team that he has some familiarity with.